The twin suns of planet Arvona burned hot in the sky, turning the golden sand bright and sharp. Jace wiped sweat from his brow and adjusted the strap on his dusty pack. He had been walking alone for hours through the dry dunes, searching for anything that could pay for another year of survival back on Earth. He wasn't a treasure hunter or an explorer. Not really. He was just a man with debt, with bad luck, and with a curious streak that often got him in trouble. The scanner in his hand beeped suddenly. Jay stopped, his heart skipping a beat. The signal was strong, and it came from below. He dropped to his knees and started digging with both hands, throwing sand aside like a madman. Soon, his fingers hit something cold metal, smooth, ancient. He cleared the sand away and saw it fully. It looked like a lamp, but not like the old stories. It was shaped like a twisted hourglass, silver and glowing faintly with light from inside. Strange alien. Markings ran across its surface, shifting like water. Jace held it in both hands, studying it. This isn't from Earth, he whispered, his voice dry from the heat. He glanced around, then smiled nervously. Well, let's see what you do, he said, and rubbed the side of the artifact. At first, nothing happened, then the sky dimmed. Even though both suns still burned above, the wind stopped and the sand froze in the air like it was caught in time. Jace stood up quickly. Backing away from the artifact, which now floated above the ground, a beam of blue light shot into the sky, and then she appeared. A woman formed from the light, tall and graceful, her skin glowing faint lavender. She wore robes that shimmered like galaxies, her eyes deep and full of stars. Her hair flowed as if underwater, long and silver. She looked down at him with a soft but unreadable expression. "Who has awakened me from my prison?" she asked. Her voice musical and echoing. Jace stumbled back, falling on his backside. I didn't mean to. I was just exploring," he stammered. The woman floated down until her feet touched the sand. She tilted her head, studying him. "You? Hold the lamp of Lasara," she said, "and by ancient law, you are granted 3 wishes." Jace blinked, stunned. "Wait, what?" "3 wishes," she repeated calmly. "You may ask for anything: power, wealth, immortality, but choose wisely, for each wish has a cost." He looked at her carefully. She didn't look like a trickster. She looked tired, lonely, powerful land. Real Jace stood slowly, brushing sand from his pants. His heart beat fast in his chest. He had always thought, if this moment ever came, he'd ask for riches or to fix Earth's problems. But standing in front of this glowing woman, something in his heart shifted. He asked gently, "What's your name?" The woman paused, surprised. "I am Illyria," she said quietly. "But it has been 1,000 years since anyone has spoken it." He nodded. "Then Illyria, for my first wish," he said carefully, "I wish for you to be free." Illyria did not speak. Her eyes widened, and her glow flickered like a candle in the wind. The stars in her eyes dimmed. "No," she whispered. You cannot mean that," Jace nodded. "I do." Illyria drops to her knees in the sand. Trembling, "You do not understand what you've done," she said, almost like a child. "I was not meant to be free." Chains of light snapped in the air around her body, one by one. Jace stepped forward, reaching out. "Are you okay?" he asked. Illyria looked at him, and a single glowing tear ran down her cheek. "You broke the seal," she said. "The balance will feel it." The sand beneath them rumbled softly. She looked at the sky, then back at Jace. "Run," she whispered, her voice full of panic now. "Run before they come." "Who's coming?" Jace asked, backing away. But she didn't answer. Instead, she turned into light again and vanished. All that remained was the lamp, now cracked and dark, and the growing sound of something heavy moving beneath the sand. Jace stood alone under the burning sky, and he realized this was only the beginning. Jace stood frozen in the heat of the desert, staring at the spot where Illyria had vanished. The lamp that once floated with power now lay silent in the sand. Its surface cracked, the glow gone, but it was not the lamp that made his chest tighten it. Was her face, the way she had whispered run, the way her voice trembled, the tear that glowed like a falling star. The ground rumbled again, this time louder. Jace's feet sank slightly into the sand, as if something was shifting beneath. He turned and ran, heart pounding, lungs burning. Behind him, the desert opened slightly. Like breath escaping from an ancient mouth, Jace didn't stop until he reached the top of a dune. He looked back. There was nothing there now, but the air felt heavy. Like someone was watching. He slid down the other side of the dune and collapsed, behind a rock, trying to breathe. Minutes passed, maybe hours, then light, soft at first. Like moonlight through smoke, he turned and saw her again. Illyria floated above the sand, her glow dimmer than before. She looked tired, her body flickering like a broken star. Jace stood slowly, unsure what to say. "You came back," he whispered. She didn't answer at first. Then she said quietly, "I shouldn't have, but I had to see you." He stepped closer. "What happened to you?" Illyria looked down at her own hands, the skin slightly cracked with golden light leaking out. "When you wished for my freedom, you shattered a curse older than your son," she said. "I was not just imprisoned. We was bound to serve, to obey. To be nothing more than a tool." Jace frowned. "But isn't that why the lamp existed?" She nodded slowly. "Yes, but the lamp was never meant to be found again. My prison was hidden after I became too dangerous." Jace blinked. "Dangerous?" "You don't seem dangerous." Illyria gave a small, bitter smile. "I once questioned my masters. I refused to destroy an innocent world," she said. "So they locked me in the lamp." The wind blew softly between them. Jace lowered his voice. "I didn't know. No one does," she replied. "Your wish broke the system, but breaking a system always wakes its defenders." A low hum began again beneath the sand, deeper this time, like a distant song of war drums. "They are waking," she whispered, "the guardians of balance. They will come to erase what you've changed." Jace looked around, panic rising. "Again, then we run." Illyria shook her head. "They can smell imbalance." "It doesn't matter where you go." Jace stared at her, confused. "Then, what do we do?" She looked at him for a long time, then floated closer. "I must show you something," she said, placing her hand gently against his forehead. "Close your eyes." He obeyed, and the world vanished. Suddenly, he was somewhere else. He stood in the middle of a black void. But stars surrounded him, billions of them. Before him floated a planet green, blue, and full of life. Then he saw her. Illyria stood tall, dressed in white armor, holding a glowing sphere of light. She faced a council of tall alien beings, their faces hidden behind metal masks. "This world is innocent," Illyria said in the vision. "I will not destroy it. You dare defy the balance." The tallest one hissed. "I choose mercy," she replied. And with that, chains of light wrapped around her, pulling her into darkness. The vision vanished. Jace opened his eyes and gasped. Stumbling backward, You were punished for being kind," he said, voice shaking. Illyria nodded slowly. "I am not a genie," she said softly. "I was a queen of light, a guardian of stars, but they made me a slave." Tears welled up in Jace's eyes. His voice cracked as he said, "I'm sorry I wished for your freedom. It caused you pain." "No," she said quickly. "Don't ever regret it." She touched his hand, her fingers warm and trembling. "You gave me a gift no one else dared to give." Just then, the wind changed. The sky turned dark. Not with clouds, but with shadow. A giant figure appeared at the horizon, tall as a mountain, made of silver stone, its eyes burning blue. It raised a staff and struck it into the ground. The desert trembled, and a voice like thunder spoke. "Who has broken the seal of obedience?" Jace stood tall, despite the fear. "I did," he shouted. The giant's eyes locked onto him. "Then your soul must be balanced," the voice roared. Illyria grabbed Jace's arm and pulled him close. "I will not let them take you," she said. Her voice shaking, her glow began to rise again, but it was unstable. "You're not strong enough," Jace whispered. "I will be," she said, "because I am free and I choose to protect you." The desert wind screamed as the giant figure stepped forward, each movement shaking the sand beneath Jace's feet. The sky had turned silver and blue, split with lightning that didn't come from clouds. The creature the guardian towered. Like a walking mountain, its body made of smooth stone plates and glowing lines. Its voice echoed across the dunes, deep and cold. "Violation confirmed," it said. "The genie has been released. The balance is broken." Illyria stood between Jace and the guardian, arms raised, her glow flickering like fire in a storm. His wish was selfless, she shouted. He broke no law. He only freed a prisoner. The guardian's eyes narrowed to burning orbs. "Of blue? You were never a prisoner," it answered. "You were a mechanism, a tool of balance, nothing more." Jace felt anger rise in his chest. "She's not a tool," he said, stepping beside her. "She's a living being, with feelings." With a name, the guardian's voice rumbled louder. "She is chaos in a human shape. Her kind once bent galaxies with light, and you lit the match again." A second guardian began to rise behind the first, and then a third, their massive bodies lifting from beneath the sand, ancient watchers buried for centuries, now awakened. Jace stared as the ground cracked in every direction, heat and energy pulsing from deep within the planet. The sky dimmed further, and even the suns above flickered like dying candles. "Jace," Illyria said quickly, her voice close to his ear. "We can't fight them, not yet. We need to run, but how do you fight something like that?" he asked, trembling. "We don't," she replied. "We find the truth first, with a burst of light." Illyria wrapped her arms around Jace and lifted him into the sky. Wings of stardust formed behind her back. Stretching wide, the guardians shouted behind them. But their weapons moved slow, designed for crushing armies. Not chasing stars, they flew fast, cutting through the thick air like a meteor. Beneath them, the desert cracked open, revealing more of the machines that had once ruled this world. Massive gears, glowing chains, strange towers that bent with sound. Jace looked down in awe and fear. "This whole place," he whispered, "was a prison." Illyria nodded, her eyes serious. "Yes, and not just for me, for all the genies." Jace turned to her, shocked. "You mean there are more like you?" "Thousands," she said, "trapped, twisted, remade into servants over thousands of years." They flew into a canyon of black stone, where the air was quiet and the sky above was hidden. Illyria landed gently beside a broken statue, half buried. Worn down by time, it was shaped like a woman with wings. Just like her, but bound in chains. "This," she whispered, touching the statue's face, "was my sister." Jace watched her kneel in the sand, her glow dim again. What happened to her? She resisted like I did, but they shattered her light, rewrote her soul, and turned her into a silent servant, Illyria said, her voice thick with pain. They called her a genie too. But she never granted a single wish, because her heart was gone. Jace knelt beside her. "I didn't know how deep this went." "No one does," she said. "They erased the truth from history, replaced it with fairy tales, genies, and lamps, granting wishes for fun." He looked up at the stars, beginning to show in the sky. "How do we stop them?" She stood slowly, her energy rising again. "We need the key," she said. The thing that started it all, the first lamp. Jace's eyes narrowed. Is it still out there? She nodded. Yes. Hidden in the ruins of the Starforge. Where? The first wish was ever made, before they could speak more. A low hum filled the air again. The Guardians had found them. Stone footsteps echoed off the canyon walls, and the sky above turned sharp and bright with energy. Illyria turned to Jace, her glow growing stronger by the second. I can get us to the Starforge, she said, but it will take everything I have. Jace grabbed her hand. Then use me, he said. Without hesitation, she blinked. What? I still have 2 wishes left, he said, breathing hard, and I'm going to use one now. Illyria shook her head. Jace, don't every wish shakes the world further. It pulls more Guardians from sleep. He looked into her eyes and smiled, then let them wake high wish to understand your pain. A flash of white light exploded from the canyon. Illyria screamed. But not in fear, something inside her broke free. Jace dropped to his knees, clutching his head, as images, memories, an endless loneliness poured into his mind. He saw her life's the golden halls she once walked. The songs she sang to the stars, the betrayals, the silence, the cold cell of the lamp. He felt her sorrow, her fear, her rage, and something else, too. Her hope. When the light faded, Jace lay on the ground. Breathing fast, he looked at her. Tears in his eyes. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm so sorry. She knelt beside him, holding his hand. Her eyes full of light and emotion. No one has ever wished to feel my pain, she said softly. No one ever cared. Behind them, the Guardians roared once more, but this time Illyria stood tall, her power rising like a star reborn. Illyria floated above the canyon floor, her glow brighter than before. Her wings of stardust spread wide as she looked toward the dark sky. The Guardians had paused, their stone bodies still as if confused. Jace stood behind her, still weak from the wish he had made. His mind still echoed with her memories. Pain, loneliness, centuries of silence. And hidden behind all that tan ancient truth he could barely understand. Illyria lowered her hand slowly and turned to him. You saw it? Didn't you? She whispered. Jace nodded. I saw your world. The stars, the golden cities, and the throne of light. Her voice was soft. That throne was once mine, but they feared it. They? Jace asked. Illyria's expression darkened. The Celestials, creators of the Guardians, keepers of the balance. She looked up at the sky again. They ruled through fear, forcing light and dark to obey their law. No chaos, no change, just order. They created the lamps, she said, her voice trembling, to bind my people, to force. You asked into their balance. Jace stepped forward. But if they built the Guardians, can they also be destroyed? Illyria shook her head. They exist outside time, but their machines can be broken. Suddenly, a gust of wind swept through the canyon. Sand spun in the air like smoke, and a strange symbol glowed beneath their feet. Illyria gasped. There. Sealing the canyon, Jace looked around as glowing walls of light formed around them. Trapping them inside, we can't stay here, he said quickly. You said we needed to get to the Starforge. Illyria closed her eyes and placed her glowing hand on the canyon floor. The sand rippled like water, revealing a hidden path leading. Underground, hurry, she said, taking his hand before the seal closes. They ran together into the earth, the passage behind them closing tight. Down they went through spirals of black stone lit by strange blue crystals. This tunnel, Illyria explained, was made by my ancestors when they fled the First War. They buried our memories, our voices, our names, she said, so that one day someone could find us again. Jace listened, silently, as the walls began to shift. Images appeared, holograms of starborn beings like Illyria, smiling, laughing, living, Children with wings of light. Elders holding scrolls made of stardust. It didn't look like a race of monsters. Looked like a family. They told us genies were dangerous, Jace whispered. But they lied. Illyria nodded. They turned kindness into danger, free will into chaos. That's why your first wish shocked me, she said, looking at him. Because no one had ever thought to set me free, only command me. They reached a large chamber, circular. And deep in the center stood a glowing orb floating above a pedestal. Illyria stepped forward, eyes wide. This is a memory sphere, she said. It will show the truth if you're brave enough to see it. Jace nodded. I've come this far, haven't I? She touched the orb and light exploded through the chamber. Jace stumbled back as images filled the room. A war in the stars. Ships the size of moons battling in silence, and at the heart of it a council of towering celestials, their faces hidden in gold masks. One stood above the rest. Raising a glowing staff, the Starborn have chosen chaos. It declared, they will be bound, rewritten, and reshaped into servants of balance. Illyria stood before them in the vision, proud and strong. You call it chaos. But it is only freedom, she shouted. The Celestials raised their hands and beams of energy struck her down. Chains formed from light wrapped her body, and the lamp was forged from her own power. Jace couldn't breathe. He saw the moment they erased her name, turned her into the Genie, and buried her beneath the sand. The vision faded, and the chamber went silent. Illyria stood motionless, her wings trembling. Jace walked up beside her and gently held her hand. You were a queen, and they tried to make you forget, he said softly. But I won't let them win. Suddenly, the earth shook. A voice echoed through the tunnels, louder than thunder. You dare unlock forbidden memory. The voice roared. You are not worthy of the truth. A burst of energy blasted through the walls. The Guardians had found them again, stone arms. Reached through the cracks, their glowing eyes filled with rage. Jace turned to Illyria. We can't run anymore, he said. She looked at him, eyes full of light and fire. No, she said. Now we fight. Her body began to glow brighter. Then before, wings of pure starlight burst from her back, the chamber shaking under her rising energy. She raised both hands and whispered in her old language. The walls cracked open, light surged upward. And they shot into the sky. The tunnel exploded behind them as they flew toward the stars. The Guardians roared below, but they couldn't follow. Fast enough, they had escaped the trap, but war had begun. Far ahead, hidden among the stars, the Starforge waited. The place where the first wish was ever made, and maybe the place where it could all be undone. The stars stretched wide around them as Illyria and Jace soared through space. She held him close, wings of starlight keeping them steady as they passed through glowing clouds and broken moons. Behind them, the Guardians roared like distant thunder. Too slow to follow, but not giving up, the Starforge was still far ahead. Hidden beyond the Nebula Gate, a place no human had ever entered. Jace looked around, awestruck. Even though his body ached and his mind still trembled from the first two wishes, he couldn't stop staring at the beauty around them. He whispered, I never thought I'd see space like this. Illyria gave a small smile. Though her eyes were full of worry, I never thought anyone would fly beside me again, she said. Let alone a human. They passed a field of floating crystals, each one reflecting moments from the past. Jace saw memories flicker in the crystal faces, visions of Illyria's people. Once strong and free laughter, music, and flight, and then came the cages, the chains, and the lamps. Jace's fists clenched. How could they do this to you? He said, his voice low. Illyria didn't answer right away. The Celestials feared emotion. She said at last they feared change, so they called it chaos as they neared the Nebula Gate. A wall of dark clouds glowing with blue lightning stood in their path. Illyria slowed and hovered, breathing deeply. "This gate will test you," she warned. "It shows your deepest weakness. Your fear, your guilt." Jace nodded. "I'm ready." They passed into the nebula, and instantly the world changed. Jace found himself standing on Earth back in the alley, where he had once ignored a starving child asking for food. He had kept walking, ashamed of his own empty pockets. The memory stabbed him now deeper than ever. "You think you failed her?" Illyria's voice echoed beside him. "She died," Jace said, tears in his voice. "I never helped. I just walked away." "But today you gave everything to help me," she said softly. "That proves your heart is not lost." The vision faded, and they were through the nebula gate. Ahead, floating in the silence of space, stood the Starforge, a massive golden structure shaped like a sun, with rings spinning around it, each one glowing with ancient power. It pulsed like a heart made of light. Untouched for thousands of years, this is where the first wish was made. Illyria whispered. Jace floated beside her, the awe on his face slowly replaced with a question. What was the first wish? Illyria's voice was heavy, to end the war between light and shadow. The Celestials used that wish to create the balance, but it was never true peace. They forced both sides into stillness, erased our names, and locked us away. They flew into the center of the Starforge, landing on a platform shaped like a lotus. In the center stood an ancient pedestal, cracked but still glowing. Symbols danced across it, both light and shadow, fire and water, chaos and order. Illyria turned to Jace. "This place can remake laws," she said. "If you use your second wish here, it can undo what the Celestials created." Jace looked at her carefully. "Can it bring back your people?" Illyria nodded slowly. "But it will come at a cost," she warned. "This forge runs on soul energy. It takes part of the one who makes the wish." Jace thought about that. His fingers trembled. His body still felt weak from the last one, but he also saw Illyria's eyes, the silent hope buried beneath pain and fear. He stepped forward and placed his hand on the pedestal. "I'm not afraid," he said. Illyria tried to stop him. "Jace, wait, don't do this for me." He smiled at her. "I'm not doing it just for you," he said. "I'm doing it because no one else ever has. I wish," he began, "that your people are restored and given the choice to be free." The Starforge exploded in light. Waves of golden energy spread across the galaxy. Planets trembled, lamps shattered, and deep in forgotten prisons, beings of light awoke. Wings unfolded, chains vanished. Thousands of glowing forms looked to the sky, gasping as freedom returned to their souls. The genies know, the Starborn were free again. Jace collapsed to his knees, breath shallow, his skin glowed faintly, and a part of his energy pulsed in the pedestal now. Illyria caught him before he fell. "You gave part of yourself for my people," she said, her voice shaking. He looked up at her, barely able to speak. It was worth it, from deep space. A new light appeared, not the Guardians, but something older. The Celestials had felt the wish, and now they were coming. Illyria stood and turned toward the stars, the Starforge behind her, Jace in her arms. "This is no longer just a rescue," she whispered. "This is a rebellion." The Starforge burned like a second sun in the dark of space. Its ancient rings turned faster now, pulsing with raw power. The light of Jace's wish still echoed across the stars, and far beyond, in the quiet corners of forgotten galaxies. They were waking. Illyria stood at the edge of the platform, her starlight robes flowing in the windless silence. She looked down at Jace, still weak, still glowing faintly with the power he had given. He breathed slowly, eyes half open, his hand still resting where he had made the second wish. From the stars above, they came. Beings of light and flame, shadow and wind, her people. One by one, they appeared, rising out of broken chains and shattered lamps. Each of them different, unique. Their energy humming through space like music, returning after a long silence. A small girl with wings of smoke and stars flew forward, staring at Illyria in awe. "Is it true?" she asked, her voice like a wind chime. Illyria smiled, her voice soft. "You are free now." The girl's eyes filled with tears. So many. Thought we were forgotten. All around them, the freed gathered. Hundreds, then thousands. Some wept openly. Others simply looked around in disbelief. Many reached out to Illyria, calling her queen, but she shook her head. "Not queen," she said gently, "just the first to be freed." Behind her, Jace tried to rise. His body felt heavy, but his heart was strong. Illyria turned quickly and helped him up. "Easy," she whispered. "You've given too much already." Jace smiled. Weakly. Not enough yet. Before she could respond, the air around them cracked. The light dimmed. The stars above flickered, and then a hole opened in the sky. From it, they descended. The Celestials, tall beings of impossible shape, glowing with law, wrapped in armor of gold and silver. Their faces hidden behind perfect masks, they said. No words, but their presence crushed the space around them. The Starborn backed away in fear. Many trembling as old memories returned, chains rattled in their minds. Scars of control that had never healed. One Celestial floated forward, its voice like 1,000 voices combined. "The balance has been broken." Illyria stepped forward. Eyes glowing bright. "The balance was never just," she answered. The Celestial's mask tilted slightly. "You were created to serve," it said, "not to question." Illyria raised her hand and light danced across her fingers. "We were created to feel, to guide, to protect life's knot, to be used like weapons." The other Celestials formed a circle, glowing symbols appearing beneath them, energy gathered in the air cold. Sharp, ancient, "We will restore what was lost," they said in unison. "The Genie line will end." Jace stepped beside Illyria, despite his pain. "You don't get to erase them again," he said. "She's not alone anymore." Illyria looked at her people, her voice loud now, filled with power. "We don't have to hide. We don't have to fear." She called, "Look at what we've become without them." The youngest of the Starborn stepped forward, hands glowing. Then another, and another. Soon, 1,000 lights shone from the gathered beings. Different colors, different shapes. But one heart, not servants, not tools. People. The Celestials raised their hands, unleashing beams of destruction. But the Starborn raised their own, and a wall of light rose up, not from one, but from all. The beams hit the shield and scattered. Like glass, the sky shook, planets nearby trembled. A war of wills had begun, not one of fists or ships, but of truth versus control. Jace gripped Illyria's hand. He whispered, "If I use my last wish, I can stop this, can't I?" Illyria turned quickly, her face pale. "No," she said. "If you make another wish, now it may destroy you. But if I don't," he said, "they might win." She shook her head. "No, Jace. This is our fight, now not yours alone. Just." Then an old voice rang across the stars. One of the elder Starborn had stepped forward. He raised his arms and shouted in their ancient tongue. The others answered him, voices joining like thunder and song. A beam of pure memory struck the Celestials, the truth of who the Starborn were, of the betrayal of the stolen freedom. The Celestials faltered. Their masks cracking, energy around them became unstable, flickering and falling apart. For the first time, the beings who ruled all felt fear. Jace watched as Illyria stepped forward, glowing brighter than the Starforge behind her. She looked at the Celestials, her voice clear and final. "You chained us in silence, but we found our voices again. You erased our names, but we remembered. You broke us so, We rebuilt ourselves. And with that, she raised her hands, and light shot through the sky. Chains wrapped around. Her people shattered completely. The control the Celestials held cracked like old stone. The balance had fallen, not through war, but through truth. The Celestials disappeared, banished into the same void they had once used against others. Silence returned, but it was not empty now. It was free. Illyria turned to Jace, tears in her glowing eyes. "You gave me my freedom," she said softly, "but today, we all earned it." The stars were quiet again, but this time they were free. Where once there was only cold order and silence, now there was warmth, sound, and life. The Starforge floated in peaceful light, no longer just a prison tool of the Celestials. It now glowed with the energy of freedom, with the choices of living beings all around it. The newly freed Starborn gathered, no longer afraid, no longer chained. Jace sat at the edge of the golden platform, his legs hanging off the side. He was tired, more tired than he had ever been. But he was smiling. Beside him, Illyria stood tall, her starlight robes flowing gently even though there was no wind. Her wings now fully restored, shining with deep colors that pulsed like music. She looked at him with soft eyes, her voice full of something deeper than gratitude. "You changed everything," she whispered. Jace chuckled quietly. "I just made 2 wishes," he said. "That's all." Illyria shook her head. "No human has ever done what you did, not because they couldn't, but because they never wanted to. They wished for power, gold, immortality," she said. "You wished for me to choose around them." The other Starborn began to rebuild, not cities, not thrones, but communities, bridges, places where memories could be shared and new lives could begin. Some still cried as they remembered what they had lost, but the tears were no longer hopeless. They were healing. A small group of young Starborn approached Jace, each of them glowing with different colors. One with eyes like burning stars bowed slightly. "You're the reason we're not forgotten," she said. Another, taller and quiet, placed a small crystal in Jace's hand. "This holds part of our memory," he said, "so even if you return to Earth, we will always remember each other." Jace looked at the crystal as it lit up in his palm. Inside, he saw the faces of the Starborn he had helped. Their laughter, their tears, their first moments of freedom. He swallowed hard, his chest warm. "I didn't know I needed this," he said. Illyria smiled. "Sometimes the universe gives back when you least expect it." High above, the broken pieces of the Celestials' masks floated like dust in the light. They had ruled for so long that many believed they would never fall. But they had. Not through war, but through one human's choice to care. Illyria turned to face the horizon of stars. "We must now decide what kind of future we build," she said. "No more chains. No more silence." Jace stood beside her, his voice calm, and no more lamps. She nodded slowly. "Never again." He looked at her carefully. "I still have one wish left," he said. Illyria's expression grew serious. "You don't have to use it," she said. "You've already given more than enough." Jace held the glowing crystal in his hand, looking out at the bright sky. "I don't want anything for myself," he said. "But maybe there's something I can give back." He looked into her glowing eyes. "I wish," he said slowly, "that the story of your people, your true stories, remembered by every world, by every species. Forever." Illyria gasped, her hand covering her mouth. All around them, the platform pulsed with golden energy. The crystal in Jace's hand floated into the sky. Glowing brighter and brighter, it burst silently into the stars, its light splitting into countless beams. Each one carried the truth of the Starborn to the corners of the galaxy. Planets would receive it in dreams, in songs, in stories passed from parent to child. They would learn about the Starborn, not as genies, not as tools, but as people, Illyria turned to Jace, her voice trembling. "You've written our legacy into the stars." He smiled at her, tired but peaceful. "It was never mine to tell. It was always yours, as the light." Fated, Illyria stepped closer. She reached out and took his hand gently. "There is something else," she said quietly. "In our culture, we honor those who awaken the truth with more than words." Jace tilted his head. "What do you mean?" She leaned in, her forehead touching his. "We share breath," she said. "It means we walk together. From this day until our last." Jace closed his eyes. The moment was silent, powerful, real. Their energies blended for a moment human. And Starborn, to hearts that had crossed time and fear, when she pulled back, he saw a new light in her eyes. She whispered, "Welcome to our family." The galaxy was no longer the same. The balance was gone. But in its place was something better: choice, compassion, and a shared story written across the stars. Jace looked up at the sky one last time. And for the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged.